Hello Nidorinas and Nidorinos, I'm KingNido, and today it is the Turrfield Ebonies going up against the debuting Opelucid Frontiers, and as they have a look at their opening hands, let's have a look at this tale of the tape between these two sides, as it is the Turrfield Ebonies who were taken out of victory road in straight sets. They had the second chance and they were unable to take a single series last season, whereas here, they are the first side that the Opelucid Frontiers will be facing in their debut season in the PokeType League TCG. So with that said, let us know in the comments below who you think is going to win this matchup. Will it be the grass decks? Will it be the dragon decks? Let's go!
3, 2, 1, go!
Having flipped heads going first, it is the Leaf Charge deck of the Turrfield Ebonies with the Rowlet on the bench. They've got the Kartana in the active spot. The Opelucid Frontiers have got the Giratina that they were able to draft from set A, from the A2 sets, as they didn't have enough dragons to draft from these A3 sets, but they could still fill a side here in Season A3 of the PokeType League TCG. Playing the Pokeball is the Turrfield Ebonies. They do get their second Kartana, and they are playing their Professor's Research to get the Decidueye and the Pheromosa as well. They just need the rare candy now to get that Decidueye online, as they've got the Beast Wall in hand as well as that Lily card, that supporter card. They can only play one supporter per turn, so they can't play it now, and it will only be useful on that Decidueye, as the Pheromosa is also on the bench. And there's a rare candy being pulled for the Opelucid Frontiers. With this Soaring Storm deck, they do generate Psychic and Grass type energies in their energy zone, getting a Psychic energy onto Giratina, as well as placing that Poison Barb, trying to make the Ebonies reluctant to go on the offensive, as they do pull that Beast Pokemon tool. And what it will do is it does make it so the Ultra Beasts are capable of doing 10 more damage for every point they have taken. Now, they haven't taken a point yet, but say they've taken 1 point, they will do an additional 10 damage, as that Thrash Metal does 40 damage to the Giratina. There's that Poison Barb, though, returning 10 damage in between every turn. Now that Kartana is poisoned, it is the 2 cannon being pulled for the Opelucid Frontiers. They were able to also draft some colorless cards. They've got the Rayquaza, how do you say it? And the 2 cannon lines in their Soaring Storm deck, as the second Decidueye is pulled for the Turrfield Ebonies. And this is our first game in a 3-game series where every game, it's not best of 3, every game does count towards our leaderboard. 2 points for each win in a series, as another Thrash Metal from the Kartana. Giratina only has 40 health remaining, but Kartana only has 30 health, and it's now the Drampa being pulled for the Opelucid Frontiers. They are going to get that into the active into the benched spot, but they need that third energy onto the Giratina to be able to go on the offensive, as they're looking at that Drampa with the Berserk. If any of their benched Pokemon have taken damage, that Berserk is more powerful, as the big Malasada is going to be used on Giratina to restore 10 of its health as well. It will lose 2 energy, discarded at random, going for this Crisis Dive, but they do take their first point ever in the PokeType League TCG, as Kartana is wiped off the board into the discard pile. Now the Ebonies need to think of who they want to move into the active spot. They can go with the Pheromosa or the Rowlet, and they are choosing to go with the Pheromosa here, as it is the leftovers that is pulled for the Turrfield Ebonies, and they're looking through their hand. They've got that second Kartana as well, and they are going to get a first energy onto the Pheromosa. Now, it does 20 damage with the jump blues to the active Pokemon, and it can target a benched Pokemon, which is the Drampa, as the only option, also taking 20 damage from the Pheromosa. But there is that Poison Barb once again coming into play. The Pheromosa having to deal with this poison status condition, a Pokeball being pulled for the Opelucid Frontiers, and they need to get another 2 energy onto the Giratina, but it needs at least 1 Psychic energy, and we can see that there's only Grass energy being generated now, as the Picky Pack is pulled thanks to that Pokeball. And they've got the Trumbeak already in hand as well, but they've got the rare candy, so they can actually get that 2 cannon online even quicker without having to worry about the Trumbeak, as there's that poisoning afflicting the Pheromosa. The second Poison Barb, though, this time for the Turrfield Ebonies, as there is one in most decks this season that can be very useful. It will change the metagame for Season A3, as the Kartana on the bench does get its first energy. They're going to retreat the Pheromosa. They don't want to drop another point. They're bringing out the Kartana, and they're getting a Poison Barb onto the Kartana. Now, Kartana does do 40 damage with that Thrash Metal, which is enough to take Giratina out of this match. They've got the Beastite. They're looking at it again, but it's no good to them just yet. Thinking about how they want to approach this. They can get that Beastite onto the Pheromosa. They can't get it onto the Rowlet. It will be no good, but there is the Giratina being wiped off the board, and the Turrfield Ebonies take their first point of the season in this matchup. Now it's the Opelucid Frontiers choosing to move the Picker Pack into the active spot, and that 2 cannon only requires 2 energy as they pull their second 2 cannon, and that's the dual pack one that only requires a single energy. As we can see, it is a grass energy being generated now, a psychic energy on their next turn. They play the rare candy, they've got the Beak Blast 2 cannon, it does do 80 damage, so it is more powerful. That's the one they're going with. It is from the promo set A, because that is also draftable in all Season A matches, or sorry, Season A decks. But there it is, that Beak Blast wiping the Kartana off the board. They try to get the burn, but that is irrelevant because they have just taken their second point, and the Opelucid Frontiers are 1 point away from taking their debut game over the Turrfield Ebonies. But like we said, this is a 3-game series. It is possible to take the clean sweep and take all 3 games, but you definitely want to win at least 1 game. So even if you lose the first 2, you're not out of the running, as that 3rd game does get played. But it is now the Dartrix being pulled for the Ebonies. The Pheromosa moved into the active spot, and those Decidueyes with those arrows can target any Pokemon regardless of if they're on the bench. It is the Beastite though that they're thinking of placing on the Pheromosa. They've also got the Beast Wall, but they can't use that if the opposition has taken any points, and the Opelucid Frontiers have already taken 2. But it is the Dartrix that is coming online for the Turrfield Ebonies. They can't risk dropping another point, but it looks like that may be the case. They do get the leftovers on to the Pheromosa. It will be able to restore 10 health at the end of every Turrfield Ebonies turn, but with the Jump Blues 20 damage onto the 2 cannon, it still has 110 health remaining. There's the leftovers, the Pheromosa chowing down to restore that health, and there's the poison afflicting the 2 cannon, but I don't think the Opelucid Frontiers are too worried about that poisoning. They're not even worried about the energy zone, because with this Beak Blast, they are going to take their debut game over the Turrfield Ebonies, regardless of this coin flip that does in fact actually get the burn onto the Pheromosa, who is now in the discard pile, and the Frontiers take game 1. And as we have our first table reset, if you're enjoying what you're seeing, make sure to leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the action in the PokeType League TCG. And it will be the Opelucid Frontiers going first in our game 2. This time they're using their Vast Pony Canyon deck, and they've got the 2 Gibbles in hand. They've already got the Gabite and the Garchomp, because the Garchomp is returning from Season A2. It is that Ruin of Abundance deck of the Turrfield Ebonies with the Tapu Bulu going into their active spot here. But here we go in our game 2. It is the second Gabite being pulled for the Opelucid Frontiers, so they immediately move that Gibble onto the bench. They've got 2 Gibbles here. Now this deck generates 3 energies. There's the Fighting, the Water, and the Lightning types. It is the Serena being pulled for the Turrfield Ebonies. They've got the Leaf Cape in hand, and they've got the Steenie, as well as the Rare Candy and the Lily. Now that Tapu Bulu does require 3 energy, as the second Garchomp is pulled for the Frontiers, but we can see on the next turn it will be a Lightning energy. They've got the Fighting energy now. But with that said, the Garchomp requires 1 Fighting and 1 Water energy. That'll be the tricky thing with some of these decks for the Opelucid Frontiers. The Saurian Storm only produces 2 different energy, but the Vast Pony Canyon and the Dragon Majesty deck all produce 3 separate energy. But it is the Gibble starting to gnaw away here at the Tapu Bulu, who now gets its second energy after the second Steenie, is pulled for the Turrfield Ebonies. It comes back over to the Frontiers. They get the big Malasada, and we can see that the next energy that is going to be produced is a Fighting energy. They've got the Garchomp set up on the bench, but they are not getting the energy they need so that they can get it online here, as they're looking at their second Gabite. Now, Gabite can't outlast a hit from the Tapu Bulu either. And does have that reckless shearing ability, does the Garchomp. Now, we never saw that last season, but what they can do, or it never was played last season, but what it can do is they can discard a card of choice from their hand into their discard pile that allows them to draw an extra card from their deck. It is the Alolan Executor being pulled for the Turrfield Ebonies, as the Leaf Cape is placed onto the Tapu Bulu, boosting its health by an extra 30. Now that Leaf Cape can only be used on grass type Pokemon, as we do get the Tapu Bulu with the stuck in tackle, and with this coin flip it is the tail, so it is also going to do 20 damage to itself. But with that said, the Turrfield Ebonies are successful in taking the first point here in game 2, as there is the Garchomp being moved into the active spot. It's the Kommo-o being pulled now for the Opelucid Frontiers, and they're continuing to produce the wrong energy. They get a Fighting type energy, but on the next turn it will be a Lightning, as now we're going to see this reckless shearing. They can choose what card, and it will be the Gabite going into the discard pile. It's no good to them now with the Gibble already there, but now they get the Rare Candy. So what they're going to need is, I want to say Jangmo, but I do forget whether or not it's the Jangmo Hakamo. Yes, it is the Jangmo, I'm sure it is. As it is the Execute being pulled for the Turrfield Ebonies, the Garchomp having ended its turn, not being able to go on the offensive, and the Execute gets its first energy, and it is going to be Tapu Bulu once again flipping a tails as it goes with this stuck in tackle. 100 damage on to the Garchomp. This is not good for them, as the Opelucid Frontiers do pull the Hawlucha. Now, when we last saw Garchomp, it was actually a member of the Holon Allies, as this is the debut season for the Opelucid Frontiers. We have a full deck list of teams now in the PokeType League TCG, 11 sides competing to get into that top 5 victory road. And Garchomp was an absolute powerhouse last season, but it won't have the Cynthia to try and use, as the second Garchomp is discarded. It is the Hakamo, which is the first stage, not the basic Pokemon. That is the Jangmo. They are going to retreat the Garchomp though. They want to at least try and get some damage. They play the Lily hoping that this can go their way. They know that there will be a water type energy being produced in the next turn, and Hawlucha, being a colorless type, can take on any of the types, as it only requires 1 energy for this justified press that does actually do extra damage to darkness type Pokemon, but they are going up against the grass type, so 20 damage to the Tapu Bulu. It is the Guzma being pulled for the Turrfield Ebonies as they continue to generate energy for the Execute on the bench, but they get the Alolan Exeggutor with that Tropical Hammer. But again, it's a tails from this stuck in tackle. More damage by Tapu Bulu to itself, but it does take a second point for the Turrfield Ebonies. They are 1 point away from taking game 2, and it will be the Garchomp returning to the active spot. But they've finally generated a water energy in this energy zone. They also get the Professor's Research that they're going to play immediately to get another 2 cards. They get the second Hawlucha, they get the second Kommo-o, and here it is, that water energy. They're also going to play another Reckless Shearing as well, and they're going to choose one of the Kommo-os to go into the discard pile, and they get the second Hakamo, which is not what they need, as another water, as they get that water energy. So onto the Garchomp, as well as the big Melisada to restore 10 health. Garchomp can do 100 damage with this Dragon Claw, wiping the Tapu Bulu off the board to get the first point here for the Opelucid Frontiers. Here it is, the Alolan Exeggutor. This Tropical Hammer, 150 damage as they do pull the Boon Sweet. Boon Sweet? I wonder how I should say that. Should I say it like that? But with this Tropical Hammer, they need to flip aheads. That's the catch. And they get it. 150 damage, wiping this Garchomp off the board. And the Turrfield Ebonies will take game 2 as they are looking to return to Victory Road for the 3rd straight season, where they have actually been unable to get a single victory in Victory Road. But here we go, our final game, as the Turrfield Ebonies will be going first with their Lush Jungle deck, and we can see that they've got the Morlul and the Shiinotic already in hand, as well as the 2 Golisopod. They're going up against the Dragon Majesty deck as they move the Druddigon into the active spot with that Rough Skin, who we haven't seen since Season A1, as well as that Dragonite that is in hand. It is the Fomantis. I want to say Formantis. Some of these names I've never said before, but it is the Fomantis going onto the bench for the Turrfield Ebonies as the rare candy is pulled for the Opelucid Frontiers. And we talked about the different types being produced in the energy zone as the Pokeball is played by the Opelucid Frontiers, and they get their Dratini already. They've got the Dragonair in hand, but with that rare candy, that Dragonite can be online very, very soon. They're going to play the Penny as well. This supporter card allows them to capitalize, but it is the Mallow, and they can't capitalize on the Mallow, who does work with the Shiinotic in this Lush Jungle deck. But what we're going to say is there's the Fire type energy going onto the Druddigon. They also produce the Lightning and Water type energies in this Dragon Majesty deck. Turrfield Ebonies do pull their Guzma, as we can see that Shiinotic with the flickering light. It does require 2 energy, and they are immediately going to get that online though, so they're not immediately going on the offensive. They don't want that recoil damage from the Rough Skin that Druddigon has. It is going to be the Potion being pulled for the Opelucid Frontiers. They are generating the Lightning energy now. Druddigon requires at least 1 fire and 1 water plus a 3rd energy, and we can see that it will be a water energy on the next turn. They think of playing that rare candy, but instead choose to go with the Dragonair in case they get a Dragonite and a Dratini later on. And they do get that lightning energy onto the Dragonair as well, because Dragonite does require a lightning and water energy, as does the Dragonair, but it is the leftovers being put onto the Shiinotic with this flickering light. It does do 50 damage to the Druddigon, bringing its health down to 50, so it is in discard range, and with the coin flip, if it was a heads, it would prevent a Druddigon from being able to go on the offensive in the next turn, but it doesn't actually have enough energy to do so anyway, as those leftovers are going to restore the health of the Shiinotic. And it is the big Melisada being pulled for the Opelucid Frontiers, so they're going to restore 10 health for the Druddigon, taking it out of discard range from the Shiinotic. They've also got the potion that they can use as they think of placing this water energy down onto the Dragonair. But instead they're going with the Druddigon. They need to be careful of those flickering lights though from the Shiinotic if it does prevent the Druddigon from being able to go on the offensive. They put the potion onto the Druddigon as well, and here is the Dragonite entering the match onto the board on that bench. Turrfield Ebonies though pulling their own Professor's Research. They will get another 2 cards out of their deck, and they do get their second Mauler as well as the Lurantis, who can go onto the Fomantis there, and that is exactly what they do with that Petal Blizzard. It only requires 1 energy, the second Mauler on the bench, as there is that second Shiinotic already in hand, and another flickering light onto the Druddigon, bringing its health down to only 30 remaining, and they do go for the coin flip, and again it is the tails. This is good for the Frontiers because Druddigon only requires 1 more energy, and it is very rare that we do see Druddigon come online, more being used for its rough skin to allow them to set up the Dragonite. As they do pull the second Dratini, the Frontiers only need the Dragonite now in hand to capitalize on that rare candy, and there's a third energy onto the Druddigon with this Dragon Claw, 90 damage, and it wipes the Shiinotic off the board into the discard pile. The Frontiers taking the first point here in game 3 as they are looking to win their overall debut series. And it is the Mallow being pulled now for the Turrfield Ebonies. Now what that can do is it can allow them to restore their Shiinotic to full strength, but they have to discard all the energy that's on it as well, as a flickering light is finally going to take Druddigon off the board. There is that recoil damage onto the Shiinotic as they go for the coin flip, but it doesn't matter now because Druddigon is discarded from this match. There's the 20 damage onto Shiinotic here, but Dragonite still requires 3 more energy. We can see that it will be a water energy being produced by the Frontiers, but they're moving the Dratini into the active spot. They do pull the Poison Barb as well, trying to discourage the Turrfield Ebonies from going on the offensive. Unbeknownst to them, there is a Guzma in hand for this Lush Jungle deck. And there is the the water energy onto the Dragonite, and it still needs 2 more energy as it is the Leaf Cape being pulled for the Turrfield Ebonies. They are thinking of getting it onto the Shiinotic, and that is exactly what they choose to do. They haven't played the Guzma yet, but you have to think that's exactly what they're going to do. The Shiinotic has 110 health now, the Lurantis has 90 health. Keeping in mind, with that Dragonite, with that Draco Meteor, it does 50 damage 4 times to Pokemon chosen at random on the opposing side. It can do 200 damage to one Pokemon. It can split it evenly. It can go 150 and 50. The capabilities of that Draco Meteor are completely reckless as the Ebonies flip ahead once again with the flickering light as Dratini has 10 health remaining. This buys the Opelucid Frontiers another turn as they pull their second Druddigon here. They have generated a lightning energy, but they can choose any energy now to put onto the Dragonite as it has got the 1 required water and the 1 required lightning. They still need 1 more to get those 4 energy though for the Draco Meteor. The second Lurantis being pulled for the Turrfield Ebonies. Is thinking about how they want to play this energy. All of their Pokemon on the board are set up as they need them as another flickering light, and the Ebonies are going to take their second point as this Dratini is discarded. The Ebonies are 1 point away from spoiling the Opelucid Frontiers debut series here in the PokeType League TCG. But it is this Dragonite being moved into the active spot. Again, the potential for the power output. It is also the Lily, who can be used perfectly onto the Dragonite to restore 60 health from a stage 2 Pokemon. There's the fire energy onto the Dragonite with the Draco Meteor. 200 damage divided 100 each, and the Lurantis on the bench is taken off the board. The Shiinotic has 10 health remaining. The Frontiers need 1 more point. The Ebonies need 1 more point. It is a 1-point game. The next one will determine our winner. It is the Wimpod being pulled for the Ebonies. They can get this onto the bench. It will buy them a bit of time potentially here. With that said, if Dragonite actually takes out 2 Pokemon at the same time, those 2 points, because it will mean they got 4 points in this game, do count towards our overall leaderboard. That's an amazing capability of this Dragonite and some of the other Pokemon. We saw the Pheromosa earlier, who can target 2 Pokemon at once. Those points always count towards the leaderboard, even if they get more than 3. That could be the difference between a side making victory road or not. We do have our win differentials. We've also got our point and damage differentials. As they do play the Mellow, it gets all the energy off the Shiinotic, restores it back to 130 health, and they get a first energy here back onto the Shiinotic. But here it is, the Dramper's pulled, but they're just keeping the Dragonite in the active spot, going for another Draco Meteor, having 100 damage split between the Shiinotic and the Wimpod, and the Wimpod is discarded from this match, and the Opelucid Frontiers have taken their debut series over the Turrfield Ebonies in fantastic fashion, as next round they will be going up against the Levere Constrictors, whereas for the Ebonies next round, they will be going up against the Kitakami Rogues. But until then, Nidorinos, thank you so much for watching. Let us know in the comments below what you thought the best card was, and if you enjoyed what you saw, please leave a like, share, subscribe, but more importantly, always remember, you are awesome, and saying thanks, and I'll see you when you see me.